This is a time of crisis. It's not a time for politics or partisanship. We're all Americans. We need to come together. And frankly, it was a constructive call. It was about an hour. There were about 20 members of Congress on it, Republicans, Democrats. We all shared our ideas with the president. I said that it's critical that to rebuild the economy, we need to have advanced manufacturing here for critical medical equipment. I mean, China is our third largest supplier of protective medical equipment. Why aren't we making that in the United States? We need to be investing in the industries of the future. Other people had other ideas, and it was a constructive conversation.
I guess that's a long-term aim to move that production back, Congressman. In terms of the short term of what we can expect in response to COVID-19, are you supportive or fearful of early reopening of the economy?
I'm fearful if it's done without thought and without consultation with medical experts. So my view is it has to be gradual and in consultation with what the medical experts tell us. We know in Silicon Valley, Dr. Cody ordered a shelter in place on March 16th, the first in the country. 6 counties did. And as a result, our deaths have been many fewer than what they could have been. In fact, the former CDC director said that New York would have had 80% fewer deaths if they had sheltered in place when Dr. Cody did in Santa Clara. So I want to make sure we don't have a reemergence of a wave 2 that then halts the economy and that we defer to the medical experts.
All the medical experts and everyone we talk to says testing, testing, testing. We need to see accurate tests, and we need to see them happening on a much broader scale, both virus tests and antibody tests. Congressman, it feels like the governors are trying to do this and the private sector is trying to do this. Where's Congress on this? Why don't we seem to have any sort of federal strategy and organization around testing in this country?
Well, it's a very fair question. First of all, we should have taken the test that the World Health Organization offered. I mean, that would have gotten us off to a better start. Second, we have fundamentally underinvested in public health in this country. I mean, the CDC director was before Congress and said he had a $10 billion budget compared to a $740 billion national security budget. And so they did not have the capacity, frankly, to do the testing that they needed to. Now Congress has authorized funding. We need the administration to really prioritize getting the testing anywhere they can in this country, because I agree with you, that is the single biggest thing we can do to get the economy back on track and yet be safe.
Congressman, you said in your first answer, this is not a time for partisan politics. It's about coming together and make sure the right action happens. Though looking backwards, it sounds like you're still doing a bit of finger pointing. What about going forwards? Now you're part of the task force. Do you take responsibility for whatever actions are taken from here on out?
Well, I mean, I'm going to provide the advice. I mean, I would take actions if they take my recommendation and then that has a consequence. But if they don't listen to our advice, then no. But I'm hoping they will listen to our advice. And it's not a matter of finger pointing. It's what Bill Gates has said. It's what any medical expert said. Look, Bill Gates, if he were president, the reality is this crisis wouldn't have happened. He warned about this in 2015. And if the American people need to learn the lessons, not out of partisanship, Bill Gates, I don't know if he's a Republican or a Democrat.
If you were president, would this have happened?
Scientists.
Would you have stopped it totally if you were president?
Well, I'm in my second term in Congress.
Fine,
but Bill Gates were president,
you're cherry picking a pretty perfect candidate. No country has stopped this totally. We all wish Bill Gates was president of the world for this particular example, but I think it's a pretty kind of cherry-picked comparison.
I think if Dr. Patrick, I think if Barack Obama were president, this would not have happened to the level it did. They would have had a pandemic response. You would have had Ron Klain, who dealt with the Ebola crisis, and you can look at his Twitter feed. He was sounding the alarm in early January. We would have sheltered in place much earlier, and it would have been a national call for sheltering in place. Do I think that there still would have been deaths? Yes. Do I think there still would have been cases? Yes. But do I think it would have been this severe? No. But the point isn't to blame this president. The point is to say, what are the lessons America needs to learn in terms of how we prevent a future pandemic and how we prevent a wave 2?
And in the meantime, I mean, I get that you guys passed the relief bill, but the fact that now you're haggling over $250 billion in extra funds to go to the small business relief program, which is tapped out. I mean, it feels like people in Washington don't understand the size and scale of the economic disaster we're dealing with if they can't get more money into those small businesses right now.
Well, I completely support the $250 billion. In fact, I, as you know, had advocated that startups qualify for those funds. And to the administration's credit, they revised the rules to allow most of the startups to qualify. Here's what the debate is about. There have been report after report that the businesses that are getting the loans are the ones that have the best relationships with the banks, that already have accounts in the banks. We want to make sure that the $250 billion isn't just going to go to the businesses that already have relationships with banks, but is going to go to people who may not have those existing relationships. That money will get to be authorized. I support its authorization. I think there has to be some thought, though, to make sure that every business in this country who needs it qualifies.
Congressman, one quick final question. You were co-chair of Senator Sanders' campaign. Of course, he's pulled out and endorsed Vice President Biden now. Can Vice President Biden win whilst he's still limited to his campaigning, to his house, essentially, as everyone else is? How soon does he need to see these restrictions lift so that he can get out there and campaign more widely?
I think he can absolutely win. What I would do is surround himself with the experts, surround himself with Ron Klain, who was the chief of staff. And Ron Klain should be talking about what his response will be in the pandemic. Have people like Bill Gates or others who are experts have interviews with them, conversations daily. So he's showing what he wants to do. And to your earlier question, the panel, look, Apple and Google, they're in my district. They're coming up with an extraordinary app. The difference in civil liberties is it's opt-in. It's totally volunteer. People can sign up for the app. Their data will be anonymized. They're not going to have any data shared, but it's going to allow for some contact tracing. So the vice president can talk about how he will marshal those technology companies. I think he can absolutely win, but he needs to show the country what he's going to do as president.
Congressman, we thank you for your time. Representative Khanna joining us there.